I'm Jake Daly. I am a combat veteran. I was a medic in the Army, and I went to Iraq for oil. I believe that we were there for terrorism, and fighting for freedom, and I never left a pipeline while I was in Iraq. I came home messed up. I've been lied to my entire life, and I'll be fighting against that for the rest of my life. What I've found is regenerative agriculture and regenerative agroforestry. Donald Trump wasn't wrong. Rake the forest. What do you do afterwards? Well, you compost it. You sequester the carbon. You make biochar. You remediate the land. And I started doing this with my buddy Brian a few years ago here at Camp Singing Wind, and it changed my life. We can get paid to take the slash piles. We can earn a carbon credit to make biochar, and then we get paid to sell the biochar as an end product. This is real climate action. It is carbon sequestration. We've always been connected to the forest, and we've always been a part of it, and somewhere along the line we got disconnected. There is a real regenerative aspect of the soul in doing regenerative agroforestry. The worker gets a benefit because of the intent. This is a multi-faceted solution to a lot of problems. It's not just climate change, it's social change, it's economic change. We could offer jobs, living wage jobs, where you can afford to feed your family. That's a big thing.
Shit crazy, smoke to get my mind right, chillin', trying to get my grind right, fight for a spit, smoke just to chill, waiting.
What's up, guys? Sergeant G here from the Stone Vet USMC. Happy Friday. It's come to the end of the week. Hopefully for you guys, hopefully you guys are working some Monday through Friday 9 to 5 jobs. A lot of brothers and sisters I bring on the show are entrepreneurs, and they don't know what the hell Monday through Friday schedule is. They work it Sunday through Saturday. If you fortunate enough and this is your Friday, sit back and relax. You know how it is. You know what it was like when you were serving, when you was on active duty and you were serving and you worked them hard, strenuous weeks. Come that Friday, somebody's always like, who's got the grill going tonight? So everybody can come by, have some drinks and hang out and just reminisce over the stressful weeks that they had, you know, or the stupid crap that Sergeant G had them doing during the week to make sure they got done before freaking Friday. It's awesome, man. It's Friday. The weather's starting to turn nice. Spring is here. Spring's here. The temperature's going to be warming up a little bit, you know, before the summer hits. Here in Oklahoma, it's stupid hot in the summertime. And then you got the humidity on top of that. And guess what? Ain't no water by us at all. So we got the humidity, but no water, you know, so it's kind of gross feeling. This week, I got the honor of bringing on Jake, man. Jake is an Army combat medic. He's the doc. In the Marine Corps, we call him docs. Hey, doc, give me a shot. I don't know about how the Army is, but I know every time some Marines are hungover, we go to the doc. Hey, doc, I need an IV. I need an IV. I can get ready to go to work, you know? I don't know how it is for you, Jake. How you doing this Friday?
I'm doing good. I had those 3 a.m. knocks on my barracks to get ready for PT the next morning. I remember I always had an IV bag ready. So
always, right? It never fails. You always get that one guy say, I need a line. Run me a line, doc. I need a
here. I hook it up to my bunk, sit in my chair. We're ready to roll.
Ready to roll, right? So you spent some time in the Army, huh, Jake? Don't you tell us a little bit about your time in the Army? Let us reminisce about how Reminisce about the just good old memories of being in the Army.
Um, there were some good memories. I'll say that I loved basic training, right? Like learning how to be a soldier.
Right.
Uh, the actual stuff we did, like team building activities, the tower, our field training exercises, like that was fun stuff. Um, and then I went to Iraq, right? Like that. Um, that was an awakening. And then um, in Iraq, we even had some fun times, right? Like
Right.
it wasn't I mean, I had the worst time in my life and some really good times too. I made friendships that I still have today, connections, people moving to Washington that I deployed with, and I'll have those lifelong connections.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Like you said with the deployment, man, it's both. You know, it's the worst time and it's a great time because you were able to build that camaraderie while you was deployed. All y'all in a shithole
Yep.
place, but all y'all got to protect each other and keep each other entertained. You know, and like you said, some of those friendships they do last forever. You know, because you're like, oh, I remember you remember being deployed with him. You know what I'm saying? And you being
Yeah.
a combat medic, I don't know if you was attached to some kind of crazy unit where these guys are deploying, going in and outside the wire all the time or whatnot. But I mean, even yet, I mean, you still get there's things that you still doing. They still, you know, you remember, and it sucks because it's the things that we're dealing with on a regular basis, and it's just it can be it screws with us. It screws with their minds. You know what I'm saying with the PTSD and the TBI and stuff. You know, while you was in when you were deployed, what kind did you were you in one of those combat freaking brigades or whatever where you guys were all going outside, coming back in and stuff like that?
So I was with a field artillery battery and battalion. Um, we we did go outside the wire every day. We were QRF, and I mean, it was a relatively low key deployment in terms of battle, but we did get hit with a few small IEDs. Um, there was a couple times where there were some small arms fire. Um, I was on a Black Hawk, and people would take pot shots at us from
Right.
like with their like you're not going to shoot us down, but whatever.
Whatever.
They're
Yeah.
still shooting at us, right? Like Jesus. Um, we're like we're 1,000 feet in the air or whatever. To that, I don't know
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
how high we were, whatever. But that was I I did have a fun time in the Black Hawk. No, but my unit, they were a field artillery unit. We were doing an infantry mission. They it was an air assault field artillery unit. So they thought they were going to drop howitzers from Chinooks, and me being a medic, I like think a little bit. I'm like, that's never going to happen. We have drone
Right.
technology, and we have like jets, and like push of a button. Like
Right.
there's not going to be a need for an air assault field artillery drop, right? Like, so they thought they were super high speed though, and that was that was it was a rough unit, right? Like we weren't known to be a great unit in the Army, and I would say our enemies were our command, actually. The only casualty we had was my buddy who I had to treat after he blew his brains out.
Right. Right.
And that was preventable. That was preventable. And no one got held accountable. There was no justice. And it was our like command who drove him to suicide. It was like,
It's shitty,
it
dude,
was
because
fucked up.
it is. It's shitty because I mean, just during the time like that, during times like that, when you're dealing with the stresses that we deal with, and you know, and that's it's not just the army. It's every branch. Every branch suffers bad leadership. You know, bad leadership is everywhere. Wherever you go, whatever you're doing, there's usually bad leadership that's taken over, and it's just you're just like it sucks because I deal with it on a regular basis with my job now. I'm just like, you suck as a leader. Like you've never led. Like I can tell you, working for you for the past 2 year and a half, I can tell you have never led anything in your entire life. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's there's hundreds of thousands of leadership styles. Everybody leads differently. Everybody does things differently. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you don't take your experience and use it, because that's one thing that they taught me in the Marine Corps that I loved is that they said look at the best leader that you've had and take some of their traits and put it into your leadership style, because eventually you will be a leader, you will become a leader, you will be in charge of somebody or something, you know. And so I did. I took those leadership traits that I learned from my leaders that I liked, and I threw the ones that I didn't like. I just didn't carry on. I was like, I ain't doing that because a lot of stuff's stupid. Like you can't just do this kind of type of stuff, right? And
Yeah.
so when it comes to stuff like that, where you said he committed suicide because of the leadership style, it's just like, gosh. And then you're like, nobody's even being held accountable for this. Like seriously, like nobody's being held accountable for what the actions that our partner, that our freaking our own brother had. Like seriously, like what the hell, you know?
Where are we are our brother's keeper.
Right.
And if we know our brother is hurting, we don't we don't make him hurt more, right? Like that's
No.
not, but that's not what the command understands.
And
Like
they
not
don't.
my command.
Right, right, and they don't. And then when you're serving, it's like it sucks. You know what I'm saying? Military sucks. It sucks all around. I mean, some people say they had an amazing experience or whatnot. And I'm like, I didn't know where you came from, but I wish I would have. I wish I would know where you came from because I would love the opportunity to try figure that out. You know, but it does.
Right.
I mean, wherever you go, these are the type of things. I mean, like I tell every episode I do this. Every time I do an episode, we lose 22 brothers and sisters a day, right? That's the count so far. It's 22 a day. So right now, as we're sitting here and we talking about this, somebody's taking their life, and it's like, why? What was it that drove you to that final step to say, I'm not doing this no more and take your own life? Whole purpose of Stone Vet is to provide resources, to provide you a purpose, to help you find a purpose again after serving. You ain't got Sergeant G telling you what to do anymore. You don't. You wake up when you need to wake up. You go to bed when you go to bed. You eat when you go to when you need to eat. When you feel like you need to eat. When you was in the military, you were told, "Hey, you got to be at PT at 05. You got to be at lunch at 11. You come back at 12, and then we may get off at 1600. We may get off at 1800. We don't know yet. It depends on what the workload is, right? And then guess what?
Yep.
You do it all over again. You know. And then if you have to work on the weekends, then you have to work on the weekends, which sucks. But I mean, sometimes you didn't have to work on the weekends, and so you had the weekends. But yeah, you still with your brother. You still with your brother on the
Yep.
weekends, regardless. You know, what are we doing this weekend? Let's go to the beach or let's go somewhere this weekend and do something. You know, now
You're
that
with your
you know, and like you said, we are our brother's keeper. Like now that we ain't in the service anymore, how do we get in contact with each other? How do we help each other? How do we help each other find a purpose again, you know? And that's the whole reason of the show is to help find that purpose again. What are we doing? Who's doing something in the community that can help us find a resource that we could use, whether it's working for a nonprofit or whatever the case may be, you know? So during that time, so nothing happened whenever your buddy committed suicide. Nothing, no, there was no repercussions for anybody. It was just like, oh well, there's another one,
nothing.
right?
Yep.
You know, which sucks because I mean, active duty, and veterans our suicide rate is astronomical. You know, and yeah, I've had plenty of people on active duty that have committed suicide. I mean, it happens. It happens. You know, and it sucks because we feel like we're weak when we got to ask for help, and we're really not. But that's what we assume is that if we go and we ask for help, we're coming off as weak individuals. but we're not. You know what I'm saying? We're not weak individuals. And so, so you did 4 years in the army, right? You did about 4 years, and then you got out. How was that transition for you? Like, how did you go when you knew your time was coming to an end? How was that for you? What kind of things did you think about when it was that time, when the time was coming to an end?
Getting out was I was super happy to get out because of my unit, right? My command,
Right.
and I was excited for the future, and I struggled, right? Like it was really difficult. I became an alcoholic after I got out. I was drinking a fifth a night.
Right.
So I got out in 2011.
Okay.
And so I was in from 07 to 11. I deployed 2009, 2010, July to July. And I was in Basra, Iraq, down by Kuwait and Iran. And we guarded the pipelines. And then I came home with PTSD, right?
Right.
And they had my chapter paperwork started 3 months before we redeployed.
Oh wow.
Right, three months before we got back to the States, they were like, "Oh, you're fat. You're too fat." Right? I had dropped 40 pounds, and they're like, "Oh, you're too fat. You can't stay in. You're good enough to deploy at 275, but at 240, you're not good enough to stay in." And I'm 6'2", and I was running a 14 flat 2 mile, and yeah, it was.
Stupid.
But I could never pass tape.
Right.
I'm like, so yeah, the transition was really rough. They gave me my 80% rating when I first got back, and I had heard the horror stories of the VA, and I was just like super stoked to get my 80%.
Right.
And then I basically didn't want to deal with the VA again, right? So I just started drinking and failing school. I tried to use the GI Bill. I failed school a bunch of times. And then I got into real estate. I was pretty successful selling real estate for a few years. And cannabis had legalized in 2014 here in Washington. And my buddy, who's actually the son of a Black Hawk pilot out of Fort Lewis up here in Washington, he got me to smoke weed for the first time.
Oh, wow.
I grew up in Idaho, as a good Christian boy, right?
Right.
I'm not gonna smoke the devil's lettuce, right? So it was real taboo for me, and
right.
I told him no for like 2 months, 3 months. I was like, no, I'm not smoking. I know it's legal, but I'm not smoking, and I kept drinking, and he knew, and he kept on me. He's like, here, try this for your PTSD. And I finally caved, and I wasn't hungover the next day, right? Like, what the heck? What's going on? I felt great, right? Like,
right.
I got baked, felt awesome. And then I wasn't hungover the next day. I'm like, this is a miracle. I quit cold turkey. I quit alcohol cold turkey.
Wow. Right. Because after you try the devil's lettuce, after you try it, and you're like, damn, I felt good. And I woke up feeling even better. than I did the night before I went to sleep.
That's that's it. I got to sleep
That's
that
the
night.
biggest thing. I mean, because for us veterans, we do suffer. We do suffer from, the PTSD, the TBI, and just everything that we, our bodies aches and pains and everything that we deal with. We've been through a lot. We went through a lot, and it sucks, dude. And we deal with it, and it's the stigma that was put on a plant. I was like, it's a damn plant. It grows outside. It's like any rose, any lily, any dandelion, any freaking thing you can imagine that grows outside. It's the same thing. But because the government decided to put a stigma on it and say that this is bad stuff, you can't have this, you shouldn't be doing this, like during the 90s. I mean, the whole DARE program, Dare to Keep Kids Off Drugs and all this crap, and you're just like, what is going on? And now it's like I said, I was talking with Rico. Rico's like, this has been a 30-year decade. This has been 30 years that this thing's been going on, dude. Like it's been
Yeah.
heartbreaking. And it sucks that this is where it's at. And I was like, but it's people like us veterans, and other people who are huge advocates for cannabis that are making a difference now, that we're starting to get into the legislature. We're starting to get into our senators. We're starting to get into Congress and say, hey, the time's over. Like, you guys had your time. You guys got to play with it. This whole war on drugs thing, it's got to come to an end. Like, it's got to come to an end. I said, look, Canada, it's 100% legal. Mexico, it's 100% legal. So why do you want to be stuck in between two countries where it's 100% legal? And hell, even in our country alone, we have 36 states, 36 out of 50 states that have it for at least adult use or medicinal use. So why screw with it? Why continue playing this game? I said, I understand pharmaceuticals are lining y'all's pockets on a daily basis. Like we know it. Everybody knows that the pharmaceutical companies are lining the politicians' pockets as much as they can to ensure they keep cannabis out of it, because they know once people start going to cannabis, they're going to stop taking all these damn pharmaceuticals. Me, I suffer from PTSD. I think I'm on 4 or 5 different medications they gave me for PTSD. And that's not counting all my muscle relaxers and everything else I got to take for pain management, and then nausea and everything else. Because guess what? I've got ulcers, I've got GERD, I got all the happy shebangs that come with the stress of serving in the military. It sucks, but now I think there's some movement being made in Congress. I mean, they just passed freaking the Moore bill went through the House. It passed through the House. And now we're waiting on the Senate to get to vote on it. And they said they probably won't go through the first 100 days that Biden's in office. I'm like, well, that's fine. But come 100-day 101, we need to start talking about it. It doesn't need to sit, because we know what happens when shit sits. If it sits, it's going to get lost, right? And so with your experience with cannabis now, how are you feeling now about it, that you're not waking up hungover anymore?
Say that one more time.
I said, with you finding cannabis, how has that changed your life when you gave cannabis the opportunity?
Oh, I mean, when I smoked the devil's lettuce, I realized, oh, they've been lying to me, right? Like, what else have they been lying to me about? And they say that it's a gateway drug, right?
Right.
Well, it's a gateway to a freaking open mind.
Right.
That's it. Like,
absolutely.
Gateway to learning, a gateway to seeing the lies that they've been telling us. Absolutely, it's a gateway. It's not a gateway to heroin. It's not a gateway to meth. It's a gateway to freedom.
Right.
It helps you.
Right. Absolutely.
It's helped me. I would get pretty low, right, when I was drinking, suicidal even at points, and I don't have those feelings with cannabis. I don't have anxiety with cannabis. I can go out on my property or out in the forest and work all day, every day through the rain. It gives me energy. energy. It gives me motivation to go do what I love to do. Um, and that wasn't happening
Right.
pre-cannabis. I was stuck in my house, watching TV, playing video games, right? Like, um, but cannabis, like, it made me. It honestly, it makes me want to go outside.
Right. It makes you want to do things. It makes you want to, like I said, I had Coach Mayhem on the show not too long ago, and like I said, he's a fitness model, he's a fitness guru, army guy, just all fit, right? But he's lived a hard life. He's lived a hard life. But he's like, cannabis, dude. He said that thing's changed his life. He said, I smoke before I go and work out. He said, because it helps me focus. Like you said, you
Yeah,
smoke before you go out before you go out into the vegetable garden. When you go outside, you smoke because it opens your mind and you're like, oh wow, like freedom. It feels like freedom, right? It's it's a gateway to freedom to be like, oh, I feel good. Like I'm open. I'm ready to go. Let's go do something. Let's go and enjoy. Because, like I said, it takes away the anxiety. It takes away the depression. It takes away all the pain. You know. And and when
so
you
that's huge. That's
right,
huge. I can push through. I can push through the pain when I'm working outside. When someone would normally quit,
right,
I can push through the pain because I've got the medicine.
right, absolutely, absolutely, and that's what people don't understand. I think that's the biggest thing is that us as advocates, we have to show people like, dude, this is not bad. It's not poison. Those pharmaceuticals that the doctor keeps giving you, that's poison. That's killing you.
That'll kill you.
You know, and it will. I mean, if you're on Xanax or Prozac or this or that or whatever, muscle relaxer, if you're on Flexerol, I got a cabinet full of Flexerol. You know, at one point I took one not too long ago because I haven't had the joy of being able to smoke cannabis in the past 6 months because of my job. They screwed me over and it pisses me off, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And I told him, I said, I got a cabinet full of Flexerol, dude. I had to take a Flexerol a couple months ago. Worst feeling in the world. I took it. Yeah, I slept good. I woke up feeling like garbage. Like I didn't want to do anything the rest of the day. I was like, I don't feel like I'm all groggy and just, I mean, it's like people say, oh, I got to take Ambien or I got to take this. I said, dude, if you go smoke you a good indica, that will help you sleep so much better than an Ambien, some sleep aid. I'm telling you, like it will help you sleep so much better, you know?
The VA needs to get their shit together, and this needs to be federally legal so the VA can prescribe it, right?
Right.
Like that's crazy.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's why we have advocates like Rico, a veteran action council, doing things for us, making it known, fighting the VA for us, and letting them know, hey, why are you still prescribing poison to us? Here's the documentation. Here's the research that's been done on this. Like movement needs to happen. Like I said, things are getting moved. I mean, with him doing his thing and Brian out of San Diego with Helmand Valley doing his research project, they're doing what they can to show that so they can show the legislation. Hey, let's legalize this. Let's get this over. Let's get the veterans the medicine they need. You guys keep fighting them, fighting them. You always talking about you're for the veteran, you're for the veteran, you're for the veteran. Well, then let's show us how much you're for us by legalizing a cannabis plant. You know. And I mean, movement's coming. Things are happening. Things are starting to change. Like I said, the House has already passed the MORE Act. Now they're waiting on Senate to vote on it, which is I'm hoping they'll vote on it within the next 6 months. Hopefully before the end of the year, they'll vote on it and say, yeah, let's do it. Because like you said, the prisons are full, especially here in Oklahoma. 90% of the prisoners are all from freaking cannabis. You know, and you're like, seriously? Like you could empty the prisons out by expunging them from having a possession of cannabis, you know?
And I wonder how many of those prisons are private.
Right. Absolutely.
How
Absolutely.
how many corporations? How many corporations are profiting off of people being in prison for using a plant? It's
No,
insane.
absolutely. Absolutely. I know here in Oklahoma, they said that they just closed down a private prison. I said, oh, Okay, well, here's the beginning, because you should start closing them down. Because, like you said, I was watching an article. So I grew up in the '90s. You know, '90s hip hop was a big thing with Bone Thugs and all of those guys when they were doing their thing. And one of the guys was talking about, look, dude. He's like, look. He said private prisons is where the money was at the time. They were the ones that said he's like, because he was a rapper, and he's like, I remember having a meeting with these private prisons. And they said, you need to rap about this stuff, because how else are we going to fill our prisons? If you rap about it, people are going to do it. They're going to get caught by the law. They're going to go to jail. And guess what? Now I'm filling my prisons. Now it's like, that sounds about right. It's just a system. It's the system. It's how the system works. You know what I'm saying? Somebody thinks of something and says, okay, this is how we got to do it. It's all game. It's all a huge game, and that it sucks, dude. But it is where it's at. But they said they are going to start closing a lot of private prisons, which they should. They shouldn't have.
We would like to give a huge thanks to Rafa 180. Rafa 180 offers pure medicinal CBD and products made locally. They walk alongside individuals to achieve a healthy lifestyle with options needed by each person. You can learn more about them on Facebook at Rafa CBD, their website www.rafa180.com, or email at rafacbd@gmail.com. They truly believe your journey matters.
Private prisons, because the only people getting rich off of that are the people who own these private prisons. And it's not doing it.
Absolutely. It's not society, right? Like, isn't prison supposed to be some sort of payment to society?
Right.
And don't we subsidize these prisons with
Right.
our tax money already? Like,
They're just making money. Yeah, they're just making money off the government. That's all they're doing, is making more money off the government. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's stupid where it's gone and where it's going, man. So since you got out,
and
oh, go ahead.
it's clear. It's just super clear. We can all see it.
We all see
And
it.
and
Yeah,
it's going to change.
not yeah, and we all see it. We all know what's going on. It's all about politics, man. It's all politics. What our country's ran on is politics. And if you're not in the game, you're gonna get upset. You're gonna be upset like everybody else is. So since you got out of the army, you said recently you just got your 100% disability, right? Congratulations. That's what we're all striving for, is to get that 100% P&T, right? P&T, got to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You started, is this your organization that you started, the Rake Force?
Yeah.
Look at that. Rake Force.
Department of the Forest.
Department of the Forest, United States of America, Rake Force. Look at that. So I saw your video. You got a good inspirational video in regards to this, into this Rake Force thing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what drove you to do it? Like, what drove you to get into that side of, like, the agriculture side?
I started homesteading about 5 years ago. We moved out to a little country town right between Portland and Seattle, off the interstate a little bit. It's a world-class salmon fishing river. It's called the Cowlitz River, and it's about an hour south of the base, Joint Base Lewis McChord, an hour and a half maybe. But I started homesteading, started raising chickens, started gardening. It was really life-changing. It was a really life-changing experience, moving from town to the country, right?
Right.
I grew up in Boise, Idaho. It's super urban. I grew up in just like a regular neighborhood, cookie cutter house, right? Like,
right.
I did get to experience Idaho public land. I grew up hunting and fishing, so we'd get out of town and we'd go camping and we'd go hunting and fishing, and it always, like, that instilled a love for the outdoors, and for nature. And in high school, I I got to take an environmental science class where we actively did conservation work
Oh wow.
in the Idaho wilderness. Um, I did uh, wood duck population rehabilitation, where we would build nest boxes, and we'd go out with the fish and game um, in canoes on the rivers in Idaho, and we'd load up ladders and these nest boxes, and we'd go put up the nest boxes along the river to help these wood duck populations. And we do salmon creek restoration. We do brush fire. We'd go in and we would replant after brush fires so that the deer would have their browsing for feed.
Right.
And that instilled a love for conservation work in my heart, right?
Right.
And homesteading out here in the country really brought me back to all of this. And I met my buddy Brian, who owns this abandoned summer camp, and he taught me about permaculture, which is I would say it's an agriculture philosophy that focuses on building the soil and building life in the soil. And so I've been doing this for a few years now. We go out into the forest at the summer camp, and we pull stuff from the forest floor, like logs and limbs that have fallen, and we do fuels reduction. Forest fires are ripping through the West Coast every year now, from Mexico to Vancouver, BC. There's a line of fire.
We see that. You see it all over the news. You see South California's on fire again. You're like, goodness gracious.
Yeah, they need Rake Force, man. That's what they need. So we started, I've been doing this for a few years. We pull the biomass out of the forest. We don't like cutting down trees. That's not what we're about. We will thin, like if there's, so we will cut some trees down, because you can't just, you have to manage the forest.
Right.
But mostly we just pull the stuff that's already fallen, and storms provide. They like the stuff that falls after a windstorm is enough to fill trailer loads, right? And then we compost it. We build what's called hugelkulture. It's essentially rotting wood that composts into the soil, and we put compost on top of these logs and limbs, and we grow a garden, right? It's essentially a raised bed that is just going to break down into soil over time. And the act of doing the work, because of the work, the person doing it is getting healing.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, because you're actually going in there with Mother Nature and raking the stuff out and cleaning it up and cleaning the forest and cleaning all this and stuff like that. Because
my hands are permanent.
Go ahead.
My hands are permanently stained because I'm in the dirt all the time.
Right.
Like there's a connect. When you get connected with the dirt, you're going to get healing. That's
Absolutely. That's how a lot of people are. I mean, that's what my wife says. She's like, I can't get you in the garden, because you get in the garden. I usually just put my headphones on and I just get in the garden and I just start going at it. Like I'll spend all day in it, just digging, digging, putting plants in, digging. And I'll spend all day in there. I was like, well, it's because it's my meditation time to actually just look at what I'm doing and putting something together, And a lot of things, a lot of farming helps veterans, because you get to see life coming out of it. You know what I'm saying? you plant it and you get to see the life of it come to life, and you're tending to it and you're making sure it's getting taken care of and getting the nutrients it needs and everything, and you're taking care of it and making sure that's taken care of. And I think it's one of the things that us veterans, that's why we love gardening so much, because we can actually see our fruits of our labor, right? We're able to see it,
Yeah.
which is great. With what you're doing, didn't I see that something that you're doing with biochar? Is that correct?
Yeah, we compost the wood, and we also make biochar. And we add biochar to our hugelkultur mounds. The biochar is going to revolutionize agriculture. It's got a ton of space for the microbial life in the soil.
Right.
It's like a container for life on a micro scale.
Wow.
And that's important for the soil, because we have stripped our soil here in America. It's used up. We've used the fertility,
Right.
and abused the land, and we have to regenerate it. And biochar is a huge part of that.
Absolutely.
We need to increase the life in the soil. And it's carbon sequestration. I know that veterans have a hard time admitting that climate change is real, because we had a responsibility in the war for oil, right? Like
Right.
Iraq. And this is fossil fuels that we fought to secure this resource and release it into the atmosphere, and we want to act like our actions don't have a reaction, and that's just not the case.
Right.
Our actions have a reaction, and we have a responsibility for, when we've made a mess, we have to clean that shit up.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think regenerative agriculture, regenerative agroforestry, that's the game Rake Force is playing. It's not really a game. It's like a fight for it's fighting climate change. It's fighting the forest fires before they start.
Right.
Preventing them. Smokey the Bear, right? Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires.
Right.
That's a message that has stuck with me since I was a kid, right? So the healing aspect, I know personally of the healing aspect. So we've been able to I came up with the idea to host regional work parties. And this past fall, I had about a dozen veterans in the forest with goats and with saws, and people hauling logs out of the forest. And we started building my giant hugelkultur bed here on my farm. And that's really what got me to the idea to launch Rake Force. One of the veterans that came up is actually a Marine Reserve, and he was attached to, his Marine platoon was attached to my Army unit in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
We were deployed together.
Wow.
And he's now a major in the Marine Reserves. And he lives in Vancouver, Washington, which is just north of Portland, on the Columbia River. And he comes up to my farm every once in a while, and he's seen the camp, and he's seen what we've been able to do over the last few years. And he came up to my work party because I invited him.
That's awesome.
His job with the Marines right now is he's the jobs liaison for the Corps for the Pacific Northwest. And he works full time as a Department of Defense contractor. He developed a drone program that delivers individual supplies to troops in the field.
Oh wow, wow. Okay, so he's doing good things
So
too.
think canteen, first aid, MRE, like a magazine. What do you need? You dial it in the computer. The drones drop it like straight out of Hunger Games.
That's crazy.
He even made national news a few years ago because he successfully
right,
designed this program.
right.
So he came up and he told me, after watching the veterans work, after being a part of it, he pulled me to the side in the forest and he told me he thought I had something that the DoD, that the Department of Defense, would potentially fund.
Oh wow.
And it's because of biochar.
Right.
It's because that's really the silver bullet, but also the forest fire prevention is another key factor, because the Department of Defense is trying to start up trying to help support the carbon offset market,
Right.
where they're trying to profit off of carbon sequestration, and they're trying to develop this new economy, and they're spending money on it because that's what it's going to take.
Right.
Right. These giant corporations are starting to finally pay for their pollution, and how they do that is by, I don't think it's going to work, this carbon market, but they pay for like farmers to sequester carbon, because that's what plants do. Plants, right. Trees, that's what's sucking the carbon out of the atmosphere.
Right.
And the giant corporations release the most, so they have to pay for what they're doing. Right. So the farmer sucks the farmer planting the plants, planting the trees, right, sucks the carbon out of the atmosphere. They earn the credit. Then the farmer can sell the credit to the giant corporations to offset their pollution, right? Like that's the idea.
There you go. There you go.
So I don't believe that it's going to be successful, but if they're going to spend money on it, I know that Rake Force is going to be successful.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I might as well give us some money so we can give veterans living wage jobs and actual regenerative healing work, right?
Right. Like absolutely. Absolutely. And with what you're doing, I mean, like you said, you go through and you like you said, Smokey the Bear, you can start prevent forest fires, right? And you're actually going into these woods. Were you saying you had like 350 acres of woods of the forest where you're at?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot. It's a lot of acreage, you know. And if you're going through and you're raking the forest, right? You're raking the forest, cleaning all the debris up that's on the ground, and cleaning up all the just the stuff that's out there that would cause a fire, that would feed a fire, you know.
Yep.
And you're doing your forest. You're protecting the forest is what you're doing. You're going through and making sure you're putting up your barriers to say, no, you can't, we're going to do our barriers to make sure that the fire, if it was to catch on fire, that it won't go past this point. Like this is where it's at, you know?
Yep.
And you're doing some awesome things. Like you found your purpose. You went in the Army, you were a medic. Lo and behold, now you're an agriculture guy, right? You didn't learn it in the army. You didn't do any of it in the army. You're in conservation now. You're doing conservation. And it's because it's just just a one time that you went through a little conservation course, And now you're out here and you started the Rake Force. You started the Rake Force, and you like any other people, any other nonprofit, any other business out there, it's like, I need help too. Like, I need help too. I need my brothers and sisters to come out here, become one with Mother Nature, and help me make a difference in this wonderful earth we live on. You know what I'm saying? In this wonderful country that we live in, come help out here and help me make a difference. You created biochar, and biochar is becoming something very big and very important, right? And what you're doing is you found your purpose. You found the reason to live again. You found the reason to continue pushing forward, and you keep getting in there. Like you said, your hands are stained because you're in the dirt. You're always in the dirt. You're always learning something new. Like you said, it took you a while. When you became a farmer, it took you a while. You had to learn how to grow your vegetables. You learned the ins and outs of what it takes to grow certain vegetables and fruits and stuff like that, right? You said some died, and then I got so much now that I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even have the proper equipment to tend to what I have, right? And that's the biggest thing with what you're doing with Rake Force and what you're doing with all that, man. That you're doing some awesome things. You're doing some amazing things, especially we have family out there. We have brothers and sisters that are out there in the Washington area, out that way. You definitely come out there. Tell them to come out there and hit you up. Say, hey, I want to come see what you're doing, brother. I want to see what you're doing. I want to be a part of your team. And guess what? I think I have somebody that can help get Rake Force where it needs to be, you know? And that's what it's all about, is providing resources for each other. Because we all know when we all transition, there wasn't any resources for us. You got to go through a week-long course. We're going to teach you how to write your resume. We may get you started on your disability, and we may tell you a little bit about your GI Bill. That's it. And you got a week to do it. You got a week. So you spend, regardless, you spend 4 years, spend 14 years, or you spend 40 years. 1 week of course is not going to teach you how to be a civilian. It's not going to tell you how to interact with civilians that have never been in the military.
How much training did we have? Initial, from boot camp, basic training, whatever the Navy calls their training, right? Like Air Force. And then our specialized job training. Right. After that, what the average has got to be at least 8 months.
Right, at least.
Of training, of getting in and getting ready to go to combat.
Right.
And then 1 week afterwards.
Good week.
Good luck. That's crazy.
1 week to get you ready to be a civilian again. And you're like me, I joined when I was 17. I didn't know what it was like. I was a kid when I joined. I didn't have a dad. My mom was barely ever around. And so it was like, what the hell are we, what are we doing? You're going to give me a week course to say, hey, now you can be a civilian again? I'm like, dude, I've been deployed twice to Iraq. I went 2 tours to Iraq, dude. I've seen things and I've done things that I should have never seen or ever done. And now I have to interact with people who never served our country and try to interact with them and tell them, like they're right and I'm wrong. It doesn't happen
without your battles, without your brothers, right?
Right.
Like that's
and
good
it's
luck
hard.
On your own.
Yeah, you're on your own, and it sucks, dude. But it's people like you, Jake. It's you and your organization that are helping us find our purpose again, helping us find a reason to keep fighting, so that when the days are dark, when the anxiety, when the depression, when everything that slaps us in the face, whether it's financial, whether it's, work, whatever it is, because we deal with it. It's life. There's stress. If you're living, there's stress. You have stress in your life, regardless of whatever it is. Not everybody's stress is the same. But what you're doing there with Rake Force, going through, becoming one with Mother Nature, doing the biochar, teaching people about biochar and why it's a necessity and why it has to be here and why we need this stuff. And going through and preserving the forest where you're at and going through and cleaning it. Like you said, Rake Forest, you're raking it, you're getting everything up and out of it. So it could be a healthy forest so that the animals can come in and you can watch the animals roam, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys got bears and all kinds of stuff up there in Washington, But to see something like that, it'd be like, whoa, there goes a black bear or a brown bear, whatever the case may be, to be walking through the forest, and you're like, man, well, at least I cleaned it so they can come through and do what they need.
Check this out. I'm planting a food forest on my farm right now. Last year I put in 140 mixed fruit and nut trees on a couple acres, and I had some bald eagles hunting the aisles of my food forest. And I'm like, you want, like, we got all these patriots out there, right? Like, nothing's as patriotic as planting bald eagle habitat, right?
Right. Right.
That outside.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, it'd be cool to see. I mean, we went on a river trip here, me and my son. We went on a river trip with the church, and we got to see a couple of bald eagles out here on the river. And I'm like, dang, look at that. Ain't that absolutely beautiful? It's a beautiful bird. A bald eagle is if you're able to see one in real life, it's a beautiful bird, out in the wild like that. It's awesome. It's awesome to see, man. Well, Jay, I appreciate you coming out and hanging out with me on this Friday, man, telling us a little bit about your life now after serving. That's one of the biggest things, is that we get out and it's like, what do we do now? What am I supposed to do now?
Keep serving,
right? Keep serving. Like, that's what I hear a lot of people. Like I said, Rico on here, that's what he's doing. He's serving. He's helping people. He's helping people find their purpose again. And that's the biggest thing, is that I want to give my brothers and sisters, hey, there's hope. You're not by yourself. We have to know about resources like yourself, Jake. A lot of people don't know what you're doing. They don't know who Jake is. They don't know what Jake is doing with Rake Force. They don't even know what Rake Force is. But here's the opportunity. You came on the Stone Vet. You came an opportunity for you to come on my show and say, this is what I'm doing and this is why it's important. And if you are in the Washington area, you guys know you can reach out to Jake. Jake will be like, yeah, come over and hang out. Let me show you these cool bald eagles flying over my land. You know what I'm saying? Look at these cool bald eagles. And let me show you about this biochar. Let me intrigue you. Let me get your mind moving, Because a lot of times we get stuck where we're at. We get in the stumps where we're at, and we're just like, oh, this sucks. Life sucks. Life sucks. It does. But what are you doing to make it better for yourself? Like I said, Jake, you're doing your thing, man. Like I tell you guys, you're not alone. You may feel like you're alone, but you're not alone. We are here every day. We're here to reach out. We know it's a pain. We don't like reaching out to ask for help. We don't. We won't reach out to ask for help. But if you think about it, there's somebody near you, somebody by you. Wherever you live, there's a veteran within miles of you. Jake's in Washington. That's far from where I'm at. I'm out in Oklahoma. Washington's far. But my uncle lives out in Washington, and I'm going to show him this episode. He lives out in Seattle. I'm going to show him. I said, you need to check out Jake. Jake doing some cool things with the forest. He's doing some awesome things, man. You guys know I'm going to have all his description down there in the description box below on how you can reach him, how you can donate to his organization. I mean, like anything else, you can donate. If you're like, well, I can't come out there, but I can donate to help you with your mission on what you're doing and what you're providing for us brothers and sisters, trying to get out there and doing things, We're here, like he said, like Jake said earlier, we are our brother's keeper. We're here to make sure that you're taken care of any way we can, however we can do it. That's what we're here to do, is to make sure that you're taken care of, that you find your purpose again. That's the hardest part, is finding your purpose. What are you into? You into going to the forest? Jake's your man. He can tell you some things, and he may be able to intrigue you, because the forest just isn't in Washington. The forest is all over. It's all over. So regardless, wherever you live, I guarantee you have woods where you're at. And I bet you've reached out to Jake. He can tell you some conservation ideas on how to conserve the woods where you're at. And all you got to do is just pick up that phone and give him a call and say, hey, I got some questions for you. I got about 100 acres out here, and I need to figure out what I need to do with it. Like, how do I take care of this? How do I conserve this and bring the habitat animals into it and come live in it, or whatever the case may be. I bet you Jake be able to help you, man. Jake, you got any last words for our family?
Yeah, only you can rake the forest.
There you go. There you go, man. Look at that, Rake Force. There you go. Like I said, guys, I appreciate you guys spending this Friday with us, hanging out, getting to hear some of our jibber jabbers of what we're doing and where we've been and where we continue, where we see ourselves going, man. You're not alone, brothers. We got you. We're always here for you. Remember, hit the Stone Vet. We got you 6.
Chillax, it's Friday. You ain't got a job, we gon' get high today. Dark of the flesh, the deep of the roots, green of the weed. You know it's true. Puff, puff, pass, tryna get high. Got high blood pressure, we coming down. Good smoke, please numb me down. Went to rehab,